Welcome to the Thriving Artist Podcast, where we share strategies and support for artists to thrive.
We know that the art world can feel like a lonely place, and we want to provide a network of support, impactful strategies, and an abundance of encouragement to help you grow your authentic art career.
We're your hosts. I'm Jamie Smith.
And I'm Kaylan Butine, and we are also the co-founders of the Thrive Together Network, a community of female and non-binary identifying artists and artists who are caregivers.
We truly believe in community over competition, and we're so glad you're here. Enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Thriving Artist Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie Smith, and my favorite winter activity is drinking tea, puzzling, and listening to a Christmas record in the background.
I love those kind of days. I'm your second host, Kaylan Butine, and my favorite winter activity is probably watching marathons of Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, kind of those movies that have multiple episodes that we watch as a family, and eating lots and lots of Christmas cookies while we watch. Jamie and I cannot believe 2022 is coming to a close. We have talked many times before about the joy and pleasure of gathering in community each week for Art and Tea, which is our Tuesday session that meets on the network. With all of our fellow community members, we share advice, ideas, we work on our art careers together. It is literally the highlights of our week, and we've had so many good sessions in 2022.
We really have, and we spend a lot of time as a community reflecting and also sharing. So we break out into small groups, and then artists can connect. And I've met so many amazing artists in these small groups and really, really enjoyed it. And, you know, it wouldn't be the end of the year at the Thrive Together Network if we weren't asking you to reflect and wrap up your year. So we want to think about how to wrap up this year powerfully. And we thought of some questions that we wanted to share with you so that you could answer and wrap up your year powerfully. But we thought it'd be kind of fun to share our own answers because we were really inspired by these questions. And we figure if we're asking you to do it, we should do it as well.
Practice what we preach.
Exactly. And what we really hope for this episode is that you maybe gain something from our answers, but more importantly, just know that you are not alone. And we hope that it's like listening in on two artist friends who we've had wins this year, but we've had struggles as well. So we are excited to kind of share and get to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely. I love these kinds of questions and all of the reflection and writing and planning and, you know, just kind of being intentional that we really try to do together and facilitate on TTN. It's so meaningful. So for this episode, we would invite you to answer these questions in your journal, treat yourself to a coffee shop date, get a cup of tea, and just use these questions as a guide to wrap up your year and to reflect and really help you move forward as we turn the page to 2023. So here are our 4 questions to help you wrap up your year powerfully. Number 1, what are you most proud of in your art practice this year? Number 2, what did you make space for this year? Number 3, what was a big lesson for you this year? And number 4 is a bit of a 2-parter. If you had to theme this past year, what one word would you choose or phrase would you choose? And then what word do you want to manifest in the new year ahead? So, Jamie, are we going to kick this off? We're going to start answering?
Yeah, and I love just hearing these all as a grouping. They're really useful if you can get out a journal and kind of do it all at once and free write, and there's no wrong answer.
Yep.
It's a tool to really cap off your year. So, Kaylan, why don't we get started with question 1? So, what are you most proud of in your art practice this year?
Oh, such a good one. I think I am most proud of the work that I did for the last big show that I had this year, which was a solo show at the University of Greensboro, North Carolina, their kind of campus university gallery. This show was kind of the top priority for me this year. It was the show that I kept like thinking about and planning for. And it was the one that I really wanted to make my best work for. I think that was something I was like really stressing about all year, was how I had some other shows and commitments. And I just kept thinking like, I want all of this to kind of come to this culmination of like me being in this really good spot in my studio and making the best work that I've ever made for this university show. And I feel like I did that. Like, it always feels a little weird to proclaim what we're proud of, but I really feel like the work I made for that show is the best work that I've ever made. And it's work that I feel really proud of. And that feels like my big sort of win for, my art practice this year.
Yeah, and you definitely made the time happen. I know it
Yep.
felt like a bit of a crunch and just kind of the stress beforehand, but when you actually got into the studio, it really flowed, which
Yeah.
really, always feels good. And
Yes.
when it doesn't, it's terrifying.
Yes.
But
Does not
yeah,
always happen like that.
yeah, but it did for that, which is great. So this year, I'm most proud of in my art practice is the art show I put on for the Taking Up Space initiative that we put on in May. So I learned so much from this process. We asked members, to put on shows in May all together. And so I had wanted to do a show. So it felt like just a perfect opportunity.
Yep.
It also just felt so nice to be part of something bigger than, my singular show in one city on my own. And the show was really interesting for me because it was definitely the most time I've ever put into a body of work. And it was definitely the most personal
Mm-hmm.
that I've shared. A lot of my work is a very personal, but this was very much so. So the title of the show is Mother Time, and it all was about my fertility journey, and it was extremely vulnerable. And I'm just really proud that I did it. And I look back and think, wow, you really went for it. And that is awesome. And then, of course, I felt totally burnt out after, but I did it, and I'm very proud of that.
I'm so proud of you for that show. And, just to know that you're out there making work and sharing it so vulnerably, I think, speaks to just the kind of person that you are. And I know so many people in our community and the folks who got to experience that show had a lot of impact from it. So good job on that, Jamie. And just like hearing you talk about it reminds me that TUS is coming up again. Like we're almost to the beginning of 2023. And so folks are starting to plan for their next round of the Taking Up Space initiative. And we would definitely invite you to join us. Make sure you look up all of the information that we have available about Taking Up Space, where all of our network members, if they want to participate in an art show in the month or around the month of May. So next question, Jamie, let's go to number 2. What did you make space for this year?
Yeah, I love this question. This is something you brought up at a art and tea session that always stuck with me because it's so easy to fill and say, I want to do this, or I'm putting this word to this. This is going to be like this. A lot of attachment to outcome, but actually a lot of this comes down to the intentionality about making space. So this year for me, I made space for art making, unlike many times in the past where it has, fallen to the 4th thing on the list. But because of the show, I just had to. I didn't really have another choice. And one thing that was really built in and really changed the game for me is a February art residency that we did virtually, because that month I felt like I had no excuse. And we talked so much about how to create like boundaries around that time. And I really did that. And so it really fit in like it really just made that May show happen. And
Mhm.
that May show, I did an installation piece for the first time, which was a huge push for me. So I created my own fabric and I had a friend upholster a love seat for me. And it really felt like a full finished gallery show that I was very proud of. But that took way more time than I even had planned for. I put 8 months into making that show.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just I had to make a lot of space for that, which felt really good and just is very different. So I
Yep.
loved, yeah, I felt like honestly that, TTN and our work together supported that show happening, which
Yeah,
is
that's
what
the
we
goal.
want. Yeah. We
Yes.
really want members to know, like, if you're committing to put on a show in May, that can be really overwhelming, but we actually have taken a lot of care to like make sure that there's a way of making that all happen with the virtual art residency, but also we have an entire course now taking up space of how to put on your own show. And I use so many of those resources to make May happen for myself. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was really, really great time.
I feel like you started your year off so strong in the studio. So really proud of you for that. So this question is a tough one for me to answer. What did I make space for in 2022? Because I have a very different answer than yours. The word that I actually chose for my year was space. Like, so I've been thinking about this word space all of the time. It's kind of been this theme in my life this year. But I think when I chose that word, like at the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022, kind of chose that as my word to manifest, I thought that that would just be like an instantaneous, I'm going to experience all of this space, like, because I'm manifesting this word. It's just going to happen for me. But dang, space is something we really have to work for. And I think actually this whole year has not been so much for me about experiencing the space, but it's been kind of identifying the like systems, the stereotypes, like the cultural implications, all of the baggage that impedes me from gaining space in my life. And so it's been a lot of like, if I commit to this, I won't be able to do that. Or I don't need to do this way. I can get rid of that rule that I've made for myself. And, just a lot of dismantling so that I can figure out how to get more spaciousness in my life. So yeah, it's just been a funny word to like think on and kind of reflect for me. I will say too, like that because of the art residencies that we host in February and September, I did have those 2 months carved out to make a lot of work in my studio. And having that rhythm and creating that space to make specific bodies of work or to get specific projects done is just so helpful. Like this, it's like the rhythm is there, the space is there. And so I did also carve out a lot of time and space for my art practice in ways that maybe without that structure I wouldn't have done. So yeah, it's been an interesting year of kind of reorganizing my life, working out some new systems and making ways so that I can experience more space in 2023. After all, I'm only a few months into this, all of my kids are at school thing. So I'm just kind of figuring this all out.
It's like you're in a whole new world here.
Yes.
Just,
A
yeah,
whole
it feels
new
like
world.
possibilities, but also from visiting you, realizing that school days go quite quick.
They
So it
do.
sounds great, but then
Yes.
I just couldn't believe when it was school pickup time and we
I
had to go do
know.
that.
It's like we barely got into, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Um, our next powerful question number 3, is what was your biggest lesson for you this year? And a huge lesson for me, and I do think this is something that I don't know why I'm always surprised, but I feel like I learn it every year and I will continue to learn it. But just that there are seasons in my art practice and my business, and that, I actually am very project focused. So just kind of accepting how I work. And again, this word acceptance has been a big one for me this year, and I'll talk about that later. And so, seeing that I'm very good when I had like the project, the show happening, a lot happened. And then I went into a season after May was actually really focusing on Thrive Together Network, our partnership. And this fall has been about getting us really set up and, working on our Thriving Artist Map together and kind of getting ourselves and our community set up for 2023. And sometimes, especially in the past, I could get really panicky that I'm not doing all the things and that I'm not making all the art. And, I was making art and now I'm not. And I'm just starting to again, accept and have this lesson of there are seasons and I can ebb and flow, and I am always an artist, will always be an artist. And I think just realizing that yet again, it was just kind of affirming that lesson that will exist in my life, because I am not a very gray area person. I don't do things. I wish I could do things in smaller bite-sized pieces that add up to the big picture. I believe in it. I preach it, but I am quite black and white. And it is very like, I'm doing this now and I put all my energy, and I am proud that I do things at 110%, but it can also be a lot of mental work of just accepting that I can't do everything at 110%.
Right. Yeah,
Damn
I think we really can't do it all at all times. And I think accepting that as artists is really important. And that's why, I feel like explaining what you just explained, Jamie, it's helping me see that this whole Thriving Artists Map and like what we're planning for our community in 2023 is about rhythms and seasons. It's not about doing it all, going 100%, 110% at all things at all times. It's really about trying to engage artists in community, engage the artists in our community in a rhythm that is more sustainable and flows sort of in and out of these points of focus. So more next episode, next week, number 19, that we're going to be sharing about the Thriving Artist Map. But I just wanted to, I guess, plug it there, because exactly what you just said is like, we can't do it all the time. Like, we have to identify these seasons and what we're going to prioritize in certain seasons, and then have acceptance for ourselves in that. So,
well, and it's hard doing that all on your own, and so I think that's what this is, the first year of having things built in, like the virtual artist residency for me, tests for me, and actually participating in them in such a real, like, full-on way. So I feel very calm about 2023 because I actually feel like I have a map, ironically.
I know.
So, and at the bottom line is that Kaylan and we're quite selfish, we're doing all of this for ourselves, and we're just happy that you're along for the ride, because it's going to help us a lot here.
Yeah.
Kaylan, what's a big lesson for you this year that you had?
Oh, I'll keep this brief, but one for me that I've really been thinking about is identifying like how much I can really be away or be kind of in travel or hosting mode. Like, if I look at my calendar for like the month of October and I know that my folks are coming, for the weekend, I really have to consider the space before and after that weekend and not pack too much in. So
it's like your buffer time.
My buffer, yes, but my sweet buffer.
With days, not just hours.
Yeah, like I have been thinking about it where I've really tried to train myself to look at a whole month, and before committing, my family to going out of town for the weekend, or, this or that, or maybe I drive to Columbus to see an art show I want to see. Like, I kind of have to look at the whole ethos of the month and say, but is there enough downtime? Like, can I commit to that? And what is my limit? And so I've kind of come up with like this formula that sort of feels good. Like, I know I can't do, more than 4 or 5 days out of town a month. Like it just makes everything so stressful to try to, do multiple trips back to back. So just being mindful of my limits and sort of my family's limits in terms of like hosting and then traveling times. That's been a big lesson for me and something that I've never really put so much intention in. I've always been much more like, go, go, go. Yes, commit to this, commit to that. And it's like, no, we are all healthier when we have some quiet weekends at home to just live and be together. So that's
Yeah, definitely.
been a big lesson for me.
And
Let's move to number 4.
our final powerful question, which is a bit of a cheat, I will say. It's a double, it's a two-parter, but I really love the idea of looking at our entire year, 2022, and if we had to theme it with a word or a phrase, what would that be? And then when we move forward, what word do we want to manifest for our 2023 year ahead? So I like this question.
Jamie, what are your words? I really want to know.
So this year, I think when I look back, it's actually the word has been acceptance, which I will say is not the funnest of words or experiences, but I think it's really important. And yeah, just accepting that, I can't control how things are going to work out and what's going to happen, but being more present and enjoying the moments that I have and not just like constantly wishing for something else or a new phase of life, like a child and those things. So it definitely hasn't been a fun one, but I think it's been a very worthy one. And when I think about 2023, I think the word is just going to be channeling or moving towards like this idea of faith in the right path, faith in myself, faith that like we're all doing our best here. So kind of, I think that acceptance then leads to that next phase of just acceptance, faith. I don't know. So I'm working through it. It's a work in progress, and but I'm here and I'm doing it.
Acceptance and faith are just such good words. Trying not to cry, but I just want to say that I am so proud of you. Our podcast here, we're here sharing tips and supporting artists. This is not really a personal podcast, but, Jamie and I are real people with a lot going on in the background. And obviously I know a little bit more about, some of those things that you've had to accept in your life this year than our listeners. So just know, you guys, Jamie is freaking amazing, and I'm so proud of her for the way that she's
doing her best,
moves through the year with grace. Okay, so moving on to my word now that I've fully embarrassed you, Jamie. My theme for 2022, like kind of my theme as I'm reflecting on it, is the word settle, which is just such a weird word to choose because when I hear the word settle, I think of like you're settling for something, you're compromising. It feels so negative in our like consumeristic,
like
American culture.
It's supposed to be all about like, go get it, girl, hustle, like don't settle for anything. Yeah.
Right. And I am like here for embracing the positive side of this word because to me, like, I just want to settle down. I want to invite this calming energy. I want, like, I think of like letting the dust settle. Like, and isn't that a good thing? Like, we don't always need to be churning dust and making work for ourselves. We can like let that settle and settle into the systems and the rhythms that we have worked so hard to like put in place for ourselves. So I have already mentioned this, but like this year, 2022 was the first year in the fall that I've had all 3 of my kids in school. I mean, the last 10 years, I've basically spent trying to build a career and do all of this work, but also being the primary caregiver for my kids at the same time. And so I just feel like this chaos, this dust is like settling, and I now get to kind of experience this slower pace, and I want to settle down myself instead of kind of feeling caught up in this production mode and, kind of this big masculine energy. I'm rejecting that, and I am settling for
Yeah, I love it.
this version of myself. I mean, it's kind of like acceptance, I think, but
yeah.
So, and then the word that I want to manifest in 2023 is very connected to this idea of settling, and the word is root. So, this idea of this dust settling, like I don't need to do the big projects. Like I can let the construction phase come to an end, and I get to now be in this season of establishing myself just more deeply and rooting myself into things. I'm kind of manifesting these ideas of, feeling more introspective, more quiet, doing more intentional care and inward care, of rooting myself in my community here in Fort Wayne, in my own art practice, in my leadership role at TTN. We've done so much big work to like make this all happen. And now I feel like it's like, okay, let's let the dust settle. Let's root ourselves in all of this beautiful work that we've done. And I feel that on many levels of my life. So that's the word that I will be manifesting for 2023.
That's a great word. I love it. Thank you so much for everyone that's listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed us bearing our souls to you.
Yes.
The Thriving Artist podcast. And it was so fun to share 4 questions to help you wrap up your year powerfully. So we hope that you will take this time, journal. Maybe you're in a coffee shop and get that, special treat. Kaylan and I are big fans of treats.
Yes.
And journal and, answer these questions for yourself, because they do make a difference. This is kind of the gems that you get to move forward with, and you get to let go of some of this stuff. I'm excited to let go a lot of mine. Acceptance be damned. We're moving to faith. So yes, but thank you so much for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening. And I just want to announce too that we are gifting our brand new Thriving Artist map to every current TTN member or new members who sign up before January 31st, 2023. Because we want to spend 2023 in community with you. And the Thriving Artist Map is this year-long guide that we have made to support your art career and your artist life in 2023. As Jamie mentioned, we made it for ourselves. It's the seasons and the rhythms that we want to experience, and we want to walk through it with you. On next week's episode number 19, we are going to end this podcast year by talking all about our big plans for 2023 and how what we have put in place, the structure that we've set up with the community and with the Thriving Artist Map, can support you in your unique path as you build your art career. So just as a reminder to close, Jamie and I, we are here for you. We are cheering you on. And we really, truly believe the work that you're doing and the work that we are doing as individuals to be thriving artists. Thanks for listening.